Hi everyone, this is Ivo here, creator of Slicknode, and in today's video I want to show you how you can build a kick-ass marketing website using Slicknode. That's like one problem I always ran into when I used other content management systems. They either had like so much baggage that I didn't really need for the specific website I was building, or if I wanted to add certain features or build something custom, it was really hard to customize. You have to have like all this knowledge about the CMS, about the underlying architecture that's there. And this is also one of the main reasons why I built Slicknode, to make this incredibly easy. And in this video, I want to show you how you can build your own custom modular page builder to build extremely complex layout that do exactly what you want. So I'm going to start from scratch using a Slicknode CLI. So first we need to initialize a new project. I'm just going to call this marketing website. And this is going to create the basic folder structure for us to get started. So now we can change into that directory, and I'm going to open this up in VS Code. Okay, now we have our basic project set up. We have a Slicknode YAML file where there's just the basic dependencies defined. And now the first thing we have to do is add a few modules that we need. So using the Slicknode CLI again, Slicknode module add, and let's add the content module and the image module. So this is going to add the dependencies here to the Slicknode YAML file. And now we can use the content types and images in our modules. Okay, so now we need to create a module for our pages. Since we're building a marketing page, we create a module where we can create those pages and manage them. Let's do that using the Slicknode CLI again. Slicknode module create page. And this is going to create the page here. I select the name and the namespace. And then here in our modules folder, we have a page module. Let's open this up. We just remove all those example types here, and we leave the configuration as is. And now here we can define our types to manage those pages. And I'm going to use the VS Code extension for Slicknode. So I just can use those triggers here to add the templates. So for the page, I use the content node. So that way we have automatically this functionality for like history, localization. All this kind of stuff is already built in, and we don't have to worry about this. And now all we have to do is define our custom fields here. So let's give it a title of type string, say this is required. Then we define a slug. So the slug is going to be the URL that we'll be using on our website. This is then going to be mapped to that content, and we can load then a particular page for that URL. And we make sure this is unique, so every slug can only be given once to each page within the system, and we can retrieve that page for the URL then. So we make this unique, and now we have to decide how we display the content. So one way to do this is we could just add a text field of type string, and then let's say we configure an input field here of type markdown. So that way we can create pages with markdown content that are available via URL and have a title. We can save that, and then we can deploy it to the cloud, and then we have a marketing website. Let's deploy this. This now creates the infrastructure, it creates the project in the Slicknode cloud. We can give it a name, and then our GraphQL API is ready. Yeah, so this is great. Now we have a CMS where we can manage markdown-based pages, but the problem is oftentimes that's not enough, right? You want to be able to add hero units, you want to be able to add galleries, all this kind of stuff, right? So we need a flexible page builder where then content editors can go ahead and like create their pages, move things around, etc. And there's a very simple way to do this kind of stuff in Slicknode. So first we want to create a separate module where we model the data for all the UI elements that we want to be able to place on the page. So we're going to create a new module create. I'm just going to call this content. You can also name it elements or blocks or whatever you like. So now we have our content module, and here inside of that module, we can then create types for all of our UI elements. So let's say you want to create a hero unit. Call this hero unit, and then say it has a title, and then it also has an image. Use the image type from the image module that we installed before, and then maybe link, and then we can link to, let's say we link to the page object. So that way we can link inside of that hero unit to the page. Okay, so now let's create the next one. Let's say we want to also be able to add, still be able to add markdown, right? So we create a markdown element here. We name this content of type string, and then here we say this is of type markdown. All right. So what else do we need? Let's say you want to be able to add an image gallery. So we first create the gallery. We say like here, this has multiple images. So here we need a different type then that we create as for a gallery image. We say gallery image. We say it has an image, and then maybe we also want to be able to add some description, maybe attribution, or here credits, type string. And then here we can use this type to use in this field here. And the gallery, let's say the gallery also has a title of type string and a description. Let's say maybe we also want to be able to add markdown in that description. So we just change this to markdown. Okay, so now we have a hero unit, a markdown element, then an image gallery where we can place multiple images. Then we can add attribution, can add description and the images, and you get the idea. So you can just create like all those types here that we want to be able to place on that page. Okay, so now we go back to our page module here, and now we want to create a field of type sections here where we add those this content. And how do we use this? In Slicknode we can define a union type. So here we say this is then the union type for the page. Let's call it a section. And then here we can define what content elements are compatible inside of the sections of the page. So now we use the content gallery, and we have the content hero unit, and we also have the content markdown. We don't need the gallery image since they're going to be embedded into the gallery, but here we have the union type with those three elements that we can then implement in our front end. Right, and now here, instead of the text field, I'm going to remove this. I'm going to add a sections field, and we create a field of type array that has the union type here. And now we are able, inside of that sections element, to add a content gallery, a hero unit, and markdown content. Let's deploy this and see what this looks like in the backend. So now we can open up the Slicknode console, running Slicknode console, or you go to the website and open up the console. And here we have our CMS where content editors can then go ahead and create content. So we go to our page modules, create our first page, let's say home. And then here we can add our sections. So I'm going to fast forward at this point. I'm going to add some content through the user interface. It's pretty self-explanatory, and I'll see you on the other side when we have some content to work with. So I've added two pages here. We now have a home page and a contact page. If we open this up, we can see here the title that I entered, the slug, home, and then here I added a few of those content elements that we previously created. So here I have a hero unit, and we can go inside here and edit this. I added an image, and then I'll link this to the contact page. Then here I added an image gallery with some code examples. Here we can move this around, etc. We can create new ones, add description, change this, publish it, etc. You can also translate it. And then here I also added one markdown element where I added some information, link to the GitHub repository, etc. So now we have this in our backend here. Let's see how we can get this to our front-end applications. With Slicknode, this is done via GraphQL API. So all we have to do now is write the GraphQL query to retrieve exactly the data that we need in our front end. So we can use the automatically generated GraphQL API that Slicknode provides for us. And here we'll retrieve our page by its slug. We gave it the slug home, so we'll enter this here. And now we can select the fields that we need. Let's say we only want to retrieve the title and the slug. we can run this query and we get exactly that back, the title and the flag. So now for our sections, we can use the union type. So here we can select our field, and let's say for the markdown, we only need the content. There it is. Then for the hero unit, we want to retrieve the title, we want to retrieve the image. Let's say we want to retrieve the image URL with the height and width of 10 and the resize method of crop. Let's make this a little bigger so it makes a little more sense. And Slicknode automatically generates a thumbnail for us, a resized image that exactly fits into our front-end application. Then for the gallery, we can retrieve the title. Then let's say we also want to retrieve all the images here. And for the images, we want to retrieve the credits, the description. And then here for the actual image file, we also want to retrieve the URL with the height, the width, and the resize method. Okay, so now we can run this query and we get exactly the data that we need in a nice JSON format that we can then display in our front-end applications like Next.js, React, Angular, Vue, etc. So here for those sections, it's also helpful to add this type name here. So this is going to return the type name for each of those types here. So if you run this query now, each of those objects inside of the sections now has a type name property. And then in our front-end application, we can look into this and say like here, oh, this is a hero unit. So we use the hero unit component to render this data. Then here, let's say we have a gallery. Then we use the gallery component to render this data here with all those images. And then here we see this is a markdown component, render the markdown that's provided inside of this field here, and so forth. So you can create like all those content elements. You can extend this to any complexity that you want, and you retrieve exactly the data that you need and make it incredibly easy for content editors to create dynamic pages without you having to change anything in the backend. So this is how you can create marketing pages with Slicknode in very little time, and it's incredibly powerful, like how flexible data structures you can create here and make it easy for content editors to manage that content then. If you like this video, please hit the like button. I'll also be doing another video where I'll show how you can use this data and bring it into your front-end application like React, Next.js, etc. So make sure you subscribe, enable notifications so you don't miss out when I publish the next video. Until then, see you next time, and thanks for watching.